Have you ever gone back and looked at the games you played as a kid? Or maybe as an adult, young adult, or a teenager maybe? Games like, I don't know, there are many different games: Skyrim, Morrowind, Halo, Minecraft, which is a game I have never played, or maybe Call of Duty. There are way too many Call of Duty games nowadays. But chances are you can still remember specific moments from those games many, many years later. Or maybe you remember the first time you beat a difficult boss. Wait, who remembers and who actually has fought that boss, the Butcher? If you remember how it felt the first time you played Diablo 1 and you had the Butcher coming out with his cleaver, the Butcher's cleaver weapon, chasing you, and you were trying to outrun him and escape and maybe even kill him. Leave a comment below and let us know how did you feel that moment. There are many things that some people may remember. Maybe you remember secret areas that you found in different games. Maybe you remember multiplayer matches. Maybe you remember who knows what else you can discover in games. Games like Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Assassin's Creed games, strategy games, whatever. There are things that we remember of some old games. I will tell you one story of many, many years ago. I was playing lots of Pokemon games, the handheld versions. And I was playing in Game Boy Color, I think. It was the Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Blue, something like that. One of the very first versions of Pokemon games. And I remember that I was fighting against another trainer of Pokemon. And that one, with his Pokemon, he beat all of my Pokemon and I had only one left. That one left was, I think, that Pokemon that was... I don't really remember details because that happened 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago. But I remember very well that the moment I thought that I was going to lose the fight, I had my last Pokemon coming out. And that last Pokemon actually defeated all other Pokemons of that trainer, because of the abilities that Pokemon had. And I didn't think beforehand to actually use that Pokemon before my previous Pokemons got beaten by, the Pokemon of the trainer. So I don't remember exactly the names and all of these things, but this thing stuck into my head. It was an awesome experience. It was very surprising. And also something that it showcases how awesome Pokemon... the idea of Pokemon games is anyways, the gameplay idea. So there are many great things that we can remember about games, but there are many people that don't remember anything. Today, nowadays, we have, of course, the video game industry keeps going on. We have very huge games coming out all the time, open world games and whatnot. We have super great graphics, super great quality of audio, super great quality of dialogues, voiceovers, music. A super huge amount of content, very, very big games, awesome games, also cinematic games that have lots of cinematic. You look at those cinematic cutscenes and it feels like you're watching a movie. And those games cost literally millions of dollars to be created. Millions. But there is an issue here. There are many people that feel like modern games, they cannot stick with them. I don't know. It is a little bit weird, I would say. And to be honest, I don't think that the games have become worse. When you increase the quality of production of a game, technically, at least from a technical point of view, nowadays, today's games become better than the old ones. But in the end of the day, it is all about the idea, the gameplay. And maybe this is why players nowadays don't feel very connected with the new games, although these are very, very expensive products. Also, another reason I think is that, nowadays everything is becoming digital. Buying a game years ago was a much bigger event, much happier event, because It was we didn't have such an abundance of different games. Of course, we still had many games, but not as today. You know, you had to go and buy physical cartridges of video games or consoles or physical discs for PC games. And you had to save money, go to the store, look at the boxes of the games, read the bucket, the fraud, touch the box, especially some collector's editions that had been very, very big and heavy and very nice to touch. Then you had to decide to buy the game, go back home, and you know, this whole process of also anticipation was very awesome. And we could say the same about going to a store and buying a physical disc of music, for example, or a book. Nowadays, many people buy digital books. Yeah, okay, maybe it is good for the environment because we don't have to destroy as many trees nowadays, but the experience is not the same. And back in the day, especially many years ago, games hadn't been cheap. So, especially young people that didn't have their own income, they had to save money, go buy a game, and then they had to play the same game for months. That is both good and bad. Some people would say, okay, it is a matter of perspective, I guess. But that's, you know, the old years of gaming, the old decades. But what about today? Today we can buy literally hundreds of games. There are many sales happening, and we can buy so many games because we buy usually digital games nowadays, not physical boxes. And because they are digital versions, in many cases they become cheap. Okay, when a game is new or a AAA game, it is still expensive, $70 or $80. But after a while we get sales, and after a couple of years the price goes down, and we can buy games for cheap. We can buy many games, and we don't even play all those games to finish them. I mean, a game that could take you 10 hours, maybe you will play it for 1 or 2 hours and that's it. Of course, the good thing is that you can play the game later, sometime later. It is not like you will lose the game, but it is not the same thing as in the old games. So, what do we do with gaming? We buy many games, we play a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and instead of asking what can I learn about this game, how good can I become, can I discover everything the game has to provide to me, what do we say? Is there anything else I can play? Yes, there is. Oh, that game is on sale, let me go get that game. And this way we buy too many games and we learn nothing. And sometimes it is very good to know maybe very few games, to have played very few games, but to actually know the games, to know some deep mechanics, to understand how they play, and maybe to be very good at those games. Because usually being good at an activity that you do, it is very satisfying to you personally. It can be very satisfying, especially if that activity is something that you enjoy, such as playing video games. Another issue nowadays would be probably that back in the old days, when you got stuck in a game, you had to try yourself to find the solution. But nowadays, with the internet, it is all about reading the internet, searching, asking, especially with AI nowadays. You ask AI, I'm stuck in that place in that video game, how can I progress? And that makes it very easy. And of course, okay, I understand that's better for most people, because after all, if you get stuck in a game and you have to waste 1 hour searching for the solution, how many people have so much free time to spend on searching for solutions while getting stuck in a game? I mean, okay, that makes sense. It makes sense. But it was different back then. And having to actually search for the solution back in the day, it made the game more immersive for you, and you learned the game more. You became better at the game because you had to, by finding a solution, for example, then you start understanding a little bit better the mindset of the design of the game, maybe, in some cases. So we could say that maybe you become better at finding solutions by yourself instead of relying on cheat guides or guides on the internet or whatever, or help from other people. Then if you didn't find the solution yourself back in the day, you asked a friend or whatever, and maybe they gave you the solution, or maybe they gave you a hint and they told you, try to do this and that, and then you will discover the solution. That was also a good thing. But everything on a plate nowadays. And I think that this is one of the reasons why modern games don't have such an impact as the older games had to us players. I don't think that it is really an issue with the games themselves. I think it is mostly how we, the players, handle the games. And of course, I want to hear your opinion on that thing, because it is a bit more personal. It takes the responsibility from the game itself to the player a little bit, that we have to be a bit honest about this thing. So leave a comment below, let me know what do you think.